he is so salty and bitter and angry at the rest of the world. And it comes off in like the first sentence. And I don't know how anyone can stand to be around him.
Welcome to the 3% Podcast. This is Chad Post from Open Letter Books. I'm here with Tom Roberts from Riff Raff.
Hello, hello.
And then Caroline Casey is our special guest from Coffee House Press today.
Hi.
And we're going to talk about a bunch of things. We have a whole list of things to talk about, including probably like some movies and TV shows and podcasts and stuff that we want to talk about from 2016. We'll get into that later. But first, I want to tell you guys, I hope you haven't seen this. God, I really hope you haven't seen this. But there's an article on the Daily Mail that I just saw, the Daily Mail, the UK paper, that's from 12 o'clock this afternoon.
I saw it. I know what you're going to talk about.
God damn it. Saying that Donald Trump tapped Sylvester Stallone to potentially take over as chairman of the National Endowment for the Arts, which is amazing. And I want to...
It's so good.
It really is. Could you imagine if Sylvester Stallone was in charge of the NEA?
The thing is, Sylvester Stallone will love being in charge of the NEA because he's always like reading 4-syllable words from flashcards. So he'll be super into it, and so they will never get rid of the NEA.
I know. Well, my feeling is they never will, anyways, which is fine. But this would be wild if to go to like a meeting at the NEA and have the chance of just seeing Rocky there.
Mm-hmm. Better than Rocky Rambo.
Yeah, better than Rocky Rambo, I suppose. Both.
Wait, I don't... I forever hold him in esteem. I love the Rocky movies and I love Rambo. He fancies himself an artist in the highest regard. This from having listening to a How Did This Get Made podcast in which they do sly movies where, what's the one with him and Dolly Parton where he's a singer?
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yes, this is a real movie in which he plays like a city guy that Dolly, like on a bet, has to turn into a successful country singer. And so he goes to Tennessee, et cetera, et cetera. And he insisted on doing his own singing, but he's just a terrible singer. But he really wants to be a good singer, is the truth of it all. So he really thinks he's a good artist. So he would love this chance.
Is that Rhinestone, is it?
Yes, that's it.
Wow.
Oh my God, I'm seeing this.
I think it would be incredible. Like, I mean, what an incredible idea. Like, we have usually, like, the person right now is artist and philanthropist Jane Chu. Totally fine. Totally good. Great. But Sylvester Stallone? People would know what the NEA is, maybe.
Wait, does that mean he has to move to Washington?
Yeah.
Well, kind of. Dana Gioia never, I don't think, fully moved to Washington.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Oh, it'd be so good. Maybe he can move into my parents' neighborhood like Mike Pence.
Oh, right on.
I can't imagine him in a suit every day coming into an office and conducting meetings or anything. I imagine the meetings that get his movies made probably take like 30 seconds.
I don't know that the chairman has to do that much of that sort of thing. The chairman does a lot of the like showing up at shit.
So he's going to get up there and praise some artist or some writer in front of a room full of like the Kennedy Awards or something.
Do they even do that, Caroline? Do you know? Like, I have never. So when Dana was in charge, I met with him a couple times. Who came after him?
God, I don't remember.
Never met that.
Some dude.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Just some dude. I never met with that person. That person had no interaction with us. And Jane Chu I've had zero interactions with, aside from like quoting her in a press release yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what they actually end up like. Yeah, you're probably right, Tom. But like that would be great.
I want him to make his own piss Christ.
That would be fantastic. That'd be fantastic. Well, and also as a minor segue, congratulations to Coffee House for getting the top prize in the literature grants that were announced yesterday by the NEA for this round of funding.
Three-way tie, but we're very happy about it, especially because I don't know if you have heard, but another major funding source just dried up overnight.
Who's that?
I don't know if it's like public. I don't know that I can say.
Doesn't matter.
Will you promise to cut this if it isn't public?
Why don't you text me?
Okay.
Well, by the time this goes up, it might be public.
Yeah, exactly. This is good podcasting right here. I don't know that we should say that on here.
Right, that's what I think too.
Okay. So we're not gonna mention that. But where did you? Yeah. Okay.
Do we need to like have like a total like side conversation via text while we try and talk?
Yeah, that would be a good idea. That'd be a great idea.
It makes it seem like publishing's full of so many good secrets.
But you guys weren't getting funded by them.
No, but we wanted to.
I have no idea what you two are talking about.
So there's very little funding that exists for literature in the country, and there are only a handful of places that one can even get funding from. And the NEA being probably the only remaining one, the only one that you can actually nationally ask for money from anywhere in the country that you can apply to with an actual thing that you can download and fill out an application and get funding for. They're the only source in the nation for nonprofit literature.
I mean, I feel like the NEA exists like mostly because Congress has forgotten it exists. Like if they started paying attention, there used to be grants in a whole lot of fields that no longer exist and only still exist in literature because it's like they forgot to get rid of them. So the less attention, the better.
It's probably a very small part of the budget.
It means nothing. It's 146 million. It was 136 million in 1984. So it's like it's super like.
No, I know. Do you in any way underestimate, or like, there's no way to overestimate the pettiness of congressional Republicans?
Yeah, but it's like the times that that's come up, like during the culture wars, was more related to something other than the money that's being spent on it. Because the idea of like completely defunding the arts is even appalling to people that you'd consider the most conservative. That there is still some modicum of like that's a thing that can exist, especially when it's like 1/1,000,000th of a percent of the annual budget. Like it's just so small it doesn't matter at all.
I think that you're more of an optimist about people than I am somehow.
But I mean, I've been through for so many years, and like there's been so many times from like that it comes up, and it just hasn't. I just don't think it's going to change. I think the thing that most likely happens is that it never even matches inflation. It hasn't matched inflation ever. So the growth of like the overall budget that they're getting is so minuscule that it doesn't change our amount. So we got $40,000. Open Letter did, which was the highest. We were number 5 overall. No, is that right? Number 6 overall. But every press that got more money than us is at least 20 years older than we are. And of every organization that exists in the city of Rochester that was funded, including the Jiva Theater, the George Eastman House, the Fringe Festival, and Bow Editions, we were the highest. So suck it. But there's no the amount that we get, the $40,000, like the fact that like next year our expenses will increase by like whatever natural inflation will increase, but the amount that we get won't. That's the bigger problem that has always held the NEA back in some ways, is that they can't increase their grants with the cost of everything else. Printing gets more expensive, but your grant doesn't go up. Well,
what they've been doing, I mean, our grants have gone up.
Well, la-di-da for you guys.
Thank you. But the way that it works in a way, or the way that at least, at the AWP meeting a few years ago, Amy Stoles was talking about it, was that there would have to be fewer tiny grants.
Oh, I know. Well, that's like, okay, so the structure of like giving out fewer grants and giving more money to the big players is sort of okay, but also I dislike that.
No, I'm not arguing for it. I'm just saying it's the way it works too. Like, so people's grants can go up by like defunding tiny poetry journals. Right. But then it's like back to the same situation that we have now of like the people who already have the most money and the most power get more money and more power. Yep. That's how we like it in America. Well, that's how you like it if you're at the top. Exactly.
I don't think we're going to be getting $80,000 anytime soon. But
you never know.
We did get as much as you guys did 2 years ago, so
See,
not impossible. Anyways, there is another. I want to segue from that to another NEA thing that just is. This is more dangerous territory, but I think that we should definitely wade into. Did you guys see the interview with John O'Brien that I sent you?
Yes, I read it about half an hour ago. Can I just say before you get into anything, his tone in general, he is so salty and bitter and angry at the rest of the world, and it comes off in like the first sentence. And I don't know how anyone can stand to be around him.
Yeah. This is okay. So what this is an interview. So Delkey was not. The reason I found this is that Delkey was not funded by the NEA. Which when I worked there, and historically they were funded every year for like the first 20 years of their existence. It was like what helped them become like the press that they because of the NEA funding, they were able to sustain themselves, to be able to get set up with Illinois State, to get the funding there, to get funding from the Lannan Foundation, to get funding from all these different places. In a large part, they've always attributed their success and endurance to the National Endowment for the Arts. And so they got no money from them. And I was like, well, that's kind of crazy. So I looked to make sure that they hadn't gotten a grant recently by going to like their news page. And instead, there's like an interview with John in something called Creative Europe Culture, which is like it's like Creative Europe Ireland. But I don't know exactly what this is, but it's about like a grant that they just got from the EU for translating books, where they got a 60,000 euro grant from the EU to translate 10 books from these countries, from like mostly Eastern European countries. Right. And there's an interview with him, and it's weird. Like, it's super weird because it talks about like, first of all, how translations were so important to the press, which is sort of like fuzzing over like the actual history of the press. But then it goes on to say that like they're Delkey Archive Ireland, and that they want to treat the U.S. like a satellite office.
Wait,
I felt like that was a little bit of just pandering to the audience here, but it came off as him saying that, he's got America under wraps. He does, that's all good. He knows what he's doing there. He needs to focus more on Ireland.
Yeah, this is the exact quote. So it said, "Why did you set up an Irish office? At the time, my hope was that the Arts Council would be a significant supporter of Delkey, and that Delkey would find a permanent home at Trinity College. Over a period of time, I wanted Ireland to be the headquarters for the press, and that the United States would be a satellite. I knew America already and could continue to run things successfully there, but I did not know Europe and how the book business functioned here. It was and is the case that the press has been deeply influenced by European literature, blah, blah, blah." Which is fucking weird.
Yeah, I mean, for a number of reasons. One being he's not really having that much success in the U.S.
Yeah.
And secondly, you just move somewhere because, like, you think you're going to get significant funding from the Irish Arts Council and that Trinity is going to take you on. That's like moving across the country with, like, the slim hope of getting a job, right? Like, that's just, you would never do that. You would get the other, you get one before the other.
I mean, they did have an arrangement with Trinity, but I think it's basically like they have an office space there.
They have an address, I think, on their website. But you're probably right.
The address is an office space. Yeah, exactly. But like, that's weird. And then this is the part that I really that ties in the NEA that I think is maybe the most batshit moment in this interview. The National Endowment for the Arts in the United States has consistently demonstrated either an indifference to or hostility towards translations, though it bristles with indignation when this is brought to their attention. A number of years ago, I would be told what objections some panel members had to our applications, and in almost all cases, the objections centered on panelists not seeing how translations benefited the public and further objected to American money going to writers who weren't American. If some of what I'm saying here seems to have an application to American politics today, so be it. That is blatantly untrue.
Yeah, I don't really. It makes no sense.
It does make sense. When people don't like you for you, you come up with other reasons for it.
This is a post-Trump reality we live in which narratives don't really matter and you can just make up whatever you want. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. He's turning himself into a martyr, which, I mean, he's been doing that for a long time, but it's very succinctly put in that paragraph.
Yeah, God. And they have 800 books in print, and all the ones that he names that were like the most important are all ones that are at least a decade old.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say this as a bookseller that a lot of them go in and out of prints pretty regularly because they're printing in small numbers and then they run out and they wait for like a backlog of orders or something. I don't know exactly what it is before it jump starts again to reprint, which is very obnoxious because it assumes that everyone is just going to sit around waiting for that book.
Who distributes them?
Now it's Ingram, but they had jumped around from a few different places over the past few years. And they were unavailable for a good 8 or 9 months, maybe last year in 2015, I think. You just couldn't order their books.
I think that's true. I think when they got dropped by, was it from Norton when they got dropped that they like just didn't have anyone for a long time? No, it was Columbia. When they were dropped by Columbia, they had no distribution for like a 6-month period. So nothing was available at all.
Right.
Yeah, now they're with us, Caroline. You missed.
I missed Ingram Sales Conference.
So you missed Sales Conference, which included Chris and I playing a lot of ping pong in their lunchroom. But you'll really appreciate this. I don't remember if I mentioned this on our last podcast, but they had a literally, like those huge trash cans that you put out at the curb, like for like big one for like recycling or for big bags of trash. They had one of those filled with books in their lunchroom as well. They were just like books to be recycled, and the one on top was Party Headquarters, which we publish. So I went into their lunchroom and found like my worst nightmare, like right before to go do our presentation. It was great. But yeah, they weren't actually that bad. But yeah, now their Delkey's distributed by them, which gives them the option to like put all their books into their weird like lightning source thing where everything would be available instantly. But I don't think they do.
The other thing I don't get is like there are all these systems that you and I have to pay attention to, like not having books go out of stock on Amazon, because if they do, Amazon will charge you and all that shit. And so like, how do they not have to play by those rules?
I don't know.
Yeah. When I was at New Directions, we had to go through this because Norton had convinced them to put a lot of, books that sold like 200 copies a year, but were like reliably going to sell 200 copies a year because somebody was teaching it somewhere, were put into this lightning source thing or whatever, or in the Amazon thing, which is very sneakily, they rob you a little bit. And the problem is when they do print, like they do the little print run themselves, one, the quality is terrible. Two, they print a certain amount, so it's not just enough to fill the orders from whatever's come in on Amazon. They print enough so then they have a backlog that they're selling at a higher margin. And so when you have more books ready to be ordered or shipped to Amazon, they'll hold off on their orders. So you end up sitting on your own and they're selling their own copy. And they have the right to print it as soon as there's like not one book in their warehouse, they can print as many as they want. And so
you're talking about the Amazon side of the program.
You have to negotiate like with each individual. Amazon was negotiating with every individual publisher, different terms and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. It's a nightmare. And of course, they sit around and take their time. So what do they care? If New Directions doesn't want to sign up 1,000 books to be in this program, what does Amazon care? They're just going to wait us out,
Yeah. The Ingram Lightning Source thing is actually pretty cool. I have to say, like,
that's what we use.
Yeah, and it's like the quality is really high. Like, we got to take a tour of their warehouse or the printing plant or whatever you want to call it, the Lightning Source plant, the biggest one that they do that does like 80,000 books a day at this point in time, and it's harrowing. Like it makes you feel like insignificant, like your books really don't matter, but like it's also kind of incredible to witness like so much stuff just being produced right in a row. There's like thousands and thousands of pounds of paper rolls.
Mm-hmm. All that stuff really makes a huge difference. Like we do a lot with Bookmobile, and when AWP was in Minneapolis, we ran out of Saeed Jones' book on like Thursday morning, like an insanely early time. And Bookmobile by that afternoon had printed and delivered 50 copies to the conference center.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was awesome.
And that's what Ingram can do, supposedly. Like, we're going to do some of our galleys to there from here on out because they can turn them around in like 3 days. Mm-hmm. It's all getting sort of into minutia, but it is pretty cool. Like what's capable, and it does raise that question: what the fuck does Delkey not have these books available for? Like it's not. Yeah. It's like clicking a button, and like literally clicking something on the website would make their books available to all bookstores.
Well, so much of the arts, whether it's visual art or literature, publishers or booksellers, is all like people not wanting to pay attention to how the sausage actually gets made and just like, be artists. And that's so dumb. Like, inventory is how you like manage your shit and keep from going out of business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there is a lot of like willful ignorance to the process because a certain type of artist considers it beneath them to get involved with, the sales side of things.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to a bookseller with a rep, and the bookseller was saying that they ordered from Ingram and then returned to the rep, which meant that the rep got dinged on every return for books that they had not even had ordered from them.
Oh, yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. And they had no idea that was happening. They were like, it doesn't matter. And the rep had to be like, yeah, it does actually.
That would be frustrating.
Yes, very. A hard enough job as it is.
Seriously. Uh-huh. So did you get the other thing that I thought was interesting that came out this week was this Andrew Wylie speech at Guadalajara. I just met with they met with Wylie when I was in New York, and they're talking about some of the Dalkey books that they'd reclaimed rights from that are available to us. But that's that one I'll keep secret. But but this speech that Wylie gave in Guadalajara is fucking insane too.
I mean, it's like delusional. It's like something out of like science fiction. It's like the beginning of Wall-E or something. Like, it makes no sense. It's a completely alternate reality.
It really is. He's a guy, and my favorite is that one line, which I can't find it in here. Where he's like, "I have to teach everyone at the office not to think about money." Where is that?
The short-sightedness of agents so often, where their focus on their cut of the check is completely against the interests of the writer or their interest, frankly, for someone's career overall, because they're so chintzy and so, there are some agents I really, really like. And then there are some agents who are so awful to work with that it makes me not want to work with the author. And I want to tell authors, letting your agent be a monster on your behalf actually also makes you look bad. Like, you don't come out smelling like roses because you let someone else do this on your behalf. Like, you also look like a terrible person.
Yep.
Like, negotiating contracts in ways that make zero sense, like fighting with people about like newsletters and like needing to be paid more for like rights to like answering 4 questions in someone's newsletter.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah, I'm totally serious.
Jesus, we haven't had that problem, but like, yeah, there's so many others. And like, one of the things I hate about all agents, especially, and it's that poaching thing. And I understand the necessity for it at times of like, if an author has a chance to make a ton of money, then sure, they should go make a ton of money. It's like being a free agent in baseball or whatever. Like, you're a small market team, you can't afford them, and they have a chance to make $10 million, let them go. But like, the way that certain agents, like some of the ones that we might be talking about, deal with that is really distasteful, because it's not even like there is another offer on the table. It's basically just trying to be like, well, you're not significant enough, so we're just going to go take this elsewhere and try and get more money. And then when it fails, we'll come back to you, but sort of still treat you like you're an asshole the whole time.
And also, like, not care about the context in which someone is published and whether or not someone is going to be like the highlight of a list or like completely forgotten, like, junior everybody, like an assistant edits your book. No one cares. You might get like double the advance. You might get 10 grand, woohoo, but like, nothing will happen for your book, and you will lose all the royalties you might have earned if you went with someone who could pay you less up front, but would actually have a context within which to publish your book, within which your book made sense. The number of books that we, have, when we have lost out on books that have been published by big houses that then you never hear from again because they actually have no idea what to do with them.
Yep. Very often. I wrote a whole thing about this in the book that I wrote in Marfa that's sitting on my desktop. about that same problem, because it is stupid to like, it is very short-sighted to think that if you just grab that money right then, that's going to be better for the book or for the author in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it assumes that readers somehow are privy to information and process it all, and it doesn't, because what it does take, it has to be like the $1 million book before the publisher in question and the entire sales force and the entire marketing force and all being directed by the publisher or vice publisher of that particular imprint or the publisher itself, before they will actually say, okay, we paid $1 million for this, get out there and sell it.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 50,000 or even $250,000, it's still sort of like mid-list to them, and it would have to be something truly special, something that they saw, and everyone really rallied behind, and that comes around like once every 5 years.
It's
but
like
for the other book that we're talking about. Say that again.
Like your favorite movie, Girl on a Train.
Right.
True.
It has to be that, and it takes the entire marketing efforts of, is that Riverhead?
No, it's Grove, isn't it?
No, it's Riverhead.
It is Riverhead. Oh God,
make that happen. And even Riverhead, who thinks they can do this with every book, can't do it with every book.
No one can do it with every book.
That's what they believe is the possibility, right? And that's what agents are selling potential clients. That's what writers want to believe. They want to be sold that sort of argument, and so they go with these agents. And then, like you said, instead of getting 10,000 in advance, they get 25,000 or 50,000, and the book doesn't sell. And that publisher, because this is how they work, is never going to publish another book by then.
Right, and not only that, then they have a track record of not selling, and so that's worse.
Yes, exactly. Whereas a small press will do, you get a smaller advance, and of course, maybe the first one doesn't work, but they will stick with you and do the second one and do the third one in an attempt to sort of build a backlist and build a reputation, at least critically. And then eventually you get enough booksellers on board, and that's how you get success. It's, the big model just doesn't work. It works for the really successful writers, and it doesn't work for most writers.
No. It doesn't work for writers who are trying something that doesn't stroke people's intellectual egos. Like, if you're doing something that doesn't have, it doesn't make people feel smart, you are in a much worse place for the chances that you're going to have an editor who's going to understand what you're doing and advocate for it, and a sales force that will do that and have like the right number of things line up that it's going to be a success that's like saying my plan for my career is to get struck by lightning while winning the lottery.
Yeah. Pretty much. But there is, like, if you are published by one of those big presses, then you do have the shot of getting on like the New York Times best books of 2016 list.
Yes, we have a book on the best books of 2016 list.
Oh, really? Sorry, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, Pretentiousness is in the 100 notable or whatever.
Oh, 100 notable. I'm talking about the top 10 one.
100 notable. Yeah, not the top 10. Sorry.
Yeah, no, the 100 notable is that's a little different.
It's like candy. Anyone can get that.
No, but that's determined through other means.
What do you mean?
That's determined through. They talked about this last year. I don't remember the whole story, but like the way that it's reviewed and the way that it's listed in there is that then it gets entered into the potential to be in that versus the top 10, which they're actually like choosing. The editors are more choosing.
Well, no, the notable are called from editor's choice.
Right.
So if a book is editor's choice 1 week, then they're in which I think there are 9 every week. And so those 9 every week, so whatever 9 times 52 is, makes the for the list that they pick the 100 notable from. And then but yeah, then they also they pick the top 10 separately.
Right. That's the one that really I would be much more surprised if there's a coffee house book in the top 10.
Oh my God, yeah, I would fall over dead.
Because, man, those books are shitty.
Well, it's like so many things. Like, people are like, why did I not win this award? I'm like, do you want your book to be as bad as the book that won?
Yeah.
Oh. Exactly.
The 100 one has a handful of decent books on it. The 10 one does not.
I don't remember what's on there this year. I just skim it.
Your favorite book's on there, Tom?
What's that?
What's your favorite book?
Yeah, The Vegetarian.
Oh, right.
Wait,
but that's one of the Vegetarian's a good example of, like, not to bash on that book, but like that's a book that like is going to be on every one of these best year-end lists of books, and almost every one that I've seen, it's been on there.
I mean, the thing about all those lists, and I don't have an issue with The Vegetarian, is that it's all the same books. Like it's like every top 10 list is culled from like 25 books that there was just some sort of like secret cabal meeting, and they all decided that these 25 were the ones you pick 10 from, or 15 or 20 or whatever. Like and it's so boring. It's so relentlessly boring. And
you know, it's in the top one. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, it means that like people are reading the same things. They're not reading broadly. They're all reading the same stuff.
That's why it's ridiculous to say it's like anything like top books or best books is like they've read a fraction of the stuff that's out there. And the New York Times one is specifically shows that they A, haven't read very much, are considering very much, and B, have a very specific aesthetic agenda that they are promoting.
Well,
and that is an agenda I don't like. And people who do, like, wow, great. I'm glad that exists, but like I don't think that that's all that special. These books are fucking boring as shit. You know what's on the notable book, Tom? Notable books list? 0K.
That blows my mind. I will say
I read that book.
Book sucks.
Emma and I talk about this a lot, and she's of the belief, and I'm not so sure I agree, but it's a pretty solid argument that all of these publications that have put out these lists are just sort of falling in line with each other because they are it's a combination of them being lazy. They don't want to go out and do the work and find, the interesting book that they could put on this list. Two, they don't want to be outside the mainstream. They want their thing to be shared by, as many people on Facebook and blah, blah, blah. And so they are sort of aiming at this lowest common denominator sort of target audience and so the lists end up offering something for everybody, nothing being, this bold prediction or this bold selection, anything like that. And so you just get the same list over and over and over because everyone sort of has to conform. Otherwise, they're going to lose ad revenue. They're going to lose likes or anything like that. The days when somebody would take a chance and say, all right, you know what? Fuck it. The best book of the year was published by Coffee House and sold only 3,000 copies because it's, experimental and is 700 pages long.
Ugh.
Those days are over, right? We've lost the desire to have somebody go out on a ledge like that.
They're kind of over. We had one of those lightning strike books. I mean, Emer McBride's book should have sunk like a stone. No one should have read that book. Everyone should have been like, ew, this is too hard. And for whatever reason, it got insane attention and award attention in the UK. And so people here like decided that meant it was good. And so then it was safe and it was acceptable to like. And so that ended up on tons of lists and did really, really well for us. But that was just one of those things that for like magically, alchemically, the consensus was that this book makes it into to this like tight little group of people or like books that it had nothing in common with.
But what if it hadn't won the UK award?
Oh, if it hadn't won the Baileys, if it hadn't won the Goldsmith, if she hadn't been called, a genius by Anne Enright, if the UK market was not so much smaller and so I think easier to in some ways like make a splash in, it would have been a completely different situation.
Yeah.
I feel like this year, and I will bash on it because I don't think that book is very good, that The Vegetarian is everyone's sort of, here's the oddball book that's sort of unlike all the others and experimental and, give it a try. I think that slot has been filled this year by The Vegetarian.
And if it hadn't won the Man Booker, that might not be the case.
Right. I mean, it still had a lot of attention before that, but that clearly did change things for it quite a bit.
I don't think the U.S. version came out before it won that, or if it was pretty simultaneous.
It's been out for about a month, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Hard to tell. Anyway,
But but it feels like since we do have like this new democratic like internet world, like there should be other publications doing more interesting things. But even those seem to trend towards the same groupings.
Yeah,
which makes it so boring.
You'll get a few that have outsiders and like different picks, but again, like it's all or nothing these days, and the the likes just pile up for the New York Times and LitHub and all of that sort of stuff, and all the smaller publications that do this sort of thing just get buried. And also, they have their following, but that's it.
You have this either or situation. You have the New York Times, you have stuff that caters to like a more, sort of traditional audience. And then you have stuff places that refuse to review books that are not stapled together because it's like, books by sellouts or something. Oh, you Perfect Bound? And so I like, you have all those lists too where you're like, I've heard of none of these publishers. I have heard of none of these books. Like I think they possibly might be like zines, and there's not a lot of room for looking closely at the lists of respectable independent publishers that are there are a number there are a number doing like really interesting work, and they don't fit into either category really.
Yeah, I agree. I do want to ask you, I was going to complain about Salman Rushdie's speech at the New Literature from Europe Festival last week, but I'll save that for some other time, except to say that it was one of the worst speeches I've ever heard, and prove that he's like either has an intern writing stuff or is completely just out of date and out of touch. But that's fine. But Caroline, what about your book? Tell us about Little Boxes.
All I'll say is that I'm never doing an anthology ever again. And this is an idea that we had a few years ago that we came up with the same time that we came up with the cat book idea. And I think it is a good idea. It's about people's relationship with television, basically like people who, for whom like the primary background noise culturally was television. So, after the point at which it became sort of ubiquitous and before the internet really had any sort of, purchase on the culture. And so it's just writers on that stuff, on Dawson's Creek, on Twin Peaks, on Daria. The Daria essay is extraordinary. Great, but it's wrangling that many contributors is not fun at all. Anthologies are really expensive because paying all the writers individually is a lot more than just like paying a writer.
Yep.
And then after that, it is so much more complicated logistically. So I think the cover's great. It's going to be really good, but it is like too taxing. I don't have the emotional bandwidth for it. I mean, I have a hard enough time being nice to the 18 a year I'm supposed to be responsible for. And if you add like another extra like 14, it's just not, it's a lot. So.
Are you writing an essay for it?
No. Are you kidding me? No.
Why would that? That doesn't seem out of line at all.
I don't write. I write emails. I write angry direct messages.
I bet you could voice talk through an essay about television. That would be fantastic.
Well, maybe it'll be just like our collected texts about Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
That would be fun.
Oh god.
Oh yeah, we watch it. We like live text it to each other. We watch it separately at different times on like Hulu.
I'm so far behind though. I haven't even watched this season because I was Ghost Rider and I don't believe in magic. I don't like magic shit or hell shit.
Yeah.
So I backed off.
I quit Hulu because I was angry at them for never having their ads load properly. So
we quit it because it always gets stuck.
Mine always it gets jammed up, and then when I reload it, it makes me start at the beginning, and I watch 10 hours of the same ad over and over and over again. Like I would have a much easier time watching their ad content if they didn't have 2 ads that they ran on a loop for the entire episode.
Unless one of those is the canon ad that we're going to talk about later. I'd watch that on a loop forever. But we'll save that. But we quit our Hulu for that same reason. It just wasn't working right.
Yeah, no, it's such a pain. I do have an HBO Go password now, which is less useful than I want it to be. But I've become obsessed with this British procedural that takes place on an island in the Caribbean, where an like sort of ornery and uncomfortable, sweaty British cop has to solve crimes among happy island people. So I think of it as the Dustin Kurt story, and I enjoy it.
That's brilliant. That's a good thing. So one thing that we're going to do to be like a kind of our main kind of, we've already talked for quite a while here, but for this episode was that towards the end of the year and years past, we've had like sort of like year-end recap things. We don't want to. I know that Tom. I think Tom, you agree with me that we don't want to do like best of X or best of Y, because that gets really annoying, and we already complain about why we hate that. But that it's fun sometimes to like actually just look back and talk about different things that came out during the year in different categories and whatever you liked about them or think they're interesting or worth talking about. So we're going to try this year and do a couple episodes that are related to this. We'll do one about books later. We'll do the music one that we skipped last year in a similar sort of way where it's not best of, but just things that we want to share or discuss or have interesting things to say about. But Caroline, since you're a big TV person, I thought that this time we could do just sort of general media stuff, like anything like TV shows, movies, podcasts, any other media, whatever would fall in that category that you guys want to bring up, that we can just kind of go in a circle and name something and talk about it or whatever. And since you're our guest, Caroline, you can start us off.
Does it have to have come out this year, or do I have to have seen it this year?
I think you have to have seen it this year.
Okay.
If it came out this year, even better. But like, yeah, one of the things I was going to talk about has been going on for a while. I was just not really paying attention to it.
I would like to endorse 22 Jump Street for being so awesome. So good.
Is this that movie?
It is a sequel to the movie 21 Jump Street.
Which is it's on a TV show from our youth.
I remember the TV show
from our youth, and they remade it as this like hilarious Jonah Hill, Channing Tatum vehicle where they go to high school to catch drug dealers, and like the coolest kid on campus basically like wants to be in the samples and sings like about ecology. And they have no idea what to do about that. And so good. And so then 22 Jump Street is, and Ice-T plays the captain. And then 22 Jump Street, they go to college. And then the closing credits for it are like Jump Streets up through like 45 or something, where it's like divinity school, clown school, culinary school, semester at sea. It's very good. It's so funny. The ability to appreciate 22 Jump Street is like a litmus test for if you have joy in your heart. And I would like to make a shout out to the coming Splash remake, where Channing Tatum plays the mermaid and the girl from Workaholics plays Tom Hanks.
Wow.
Really? That's happening?
Yes, that's happening. I'm very excited.
Interesting.
That's like the book I am most looking forward to in 2017.
Is the Splash remake.
Is a Splash remake. Oh, and then also my favorite TV show that came out this year is The Crown. The Crown is so good. It's about Queen Elizabeth, the current Queen Elizabeth. And it starts when she marries Philip and is still a princess. And it's all about like power, basically. And everything is perfect and everything is about rules. And when her father dies and she becomes queen, they're in Nairobi or something, and they have to fly back to England. And as she's getting off the plane, Philip tries to get off with her. And the aide stops him and says, and is like, no, the crown always goes first. And I was like, yes, I want to be the crown. And so I got my staff to call me that. But it's so good. Her mom, when she sees her, when she comes in, they're all in black and mourning, and her mom sees her at the end of this hallway, and her mom stops and curtsies. And I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Are you usually into like the royal family?
Thing that Tom likes least about me. I love royals. I love them so much.
Really?
Yes, I read a royals roundup every week on various royals from various kingdoms. and love the crown, and just like endlessly interested in this kind of stuff. Did you know that Princess Anne, I believe, was there was a kidnapping attempt on her life in the 70s, and she fought off her attackers with her bodyguards?
Wow.
I know. She's a badass.
No, I did not know that. I like kidnapping attempts.
Yeah, I will also say that in The Queen, the Helen Mirren film about Princess Diana dying, I learned that Helen Mirren's queen, at least, and I have the same barber.
Really?
Like barber jacket, not like cuts our hair.
Oh, okay.
So I feel really close to her now.
Nice. Have you watched this, Tom?
No, I have a deep hatred for anything to do with any royal family anywhere. So I can't. The political aspects of it just bother me so much. I just can't. I can't do it.
When I was in Korea with Ross Effberg from New Vessel Press was when the Prince Harry was touring the U.S. or something. It was that period of time. And every morning when you'd get up, like the time difference was so extreme. If you turn on any sort of news or CNN or whatever thing, it was all about the royals. And every morning at breakfast, he'd just be ranting about how much he hates these people. How they've done nothing. It's worthless. Why are we spending so much time paying attention to them?
Not only that,
blah, blah. He's like the anti-matter to you, Caroline.
No, I know. Well, but we care. We like them because they're like, it's like having ceremonial robes or whatever. It's the same reason that we pay for putting flags out on Memorial Day in like federal cemeteries. It makes you feel good.
There's so much tax money going to the goddamn royal family. It's so offensive. It's so wrong. Oh.
Yeah, that's a lot. There is a lot of money. Like they make a shitload of money to like just be ceremonial.
There's a whole a battle in the royal family right now because Eugenie and Beatrice have been punted to secondary level royals, and Andrew wants them to be like first tier royals because first tier royals make more money. But Charles has decided that now that they have William and Harry are like fully adults, and he's married and this and that, they don't need and George and Charlotte are now around. There's no need for cousins to the king to be first tier, and so there's a lot of conflict about that.
Oh. So I have a question for you that's related to the crown, but not exactly. How many of the it's a Netflix show, right?
It's Netflix.
How many of those shows do you end up watching?
I watch a fair number of them. I watched that one, which, I mean, it's just beautifully done. They spent $37,000 recreating her wedding dress. I watched Easy, which I thought was really, really good. That's by that dude who does all those like Chicago mumblecore movies. And it's basically like a linked short story collection about like people in Chicago. And so like the babysitter who shows up in one scene in one is like the main character in another episode. I don't know, a fair number of them. Like they have some procedurals now that I've seen, but they're pretty bad. They do it seems like they do a lot of joint efforts with television production, like state television production in other countries. So they have like shows they do with like Australian TV or like TV in the UK. So they're like kind of Netflix exclusives, but only in this country. I think they get aired in a more general way elsewhere, but I'm not positive.
Yes, Emma and I have been watching we watched The Fall, which is the one with Gillian.
So good.
Have you seen the last season?
Yes.
Oh, right. I feel like we shouldn't spoil it, but we were very disappointed. Anyway, they're definitely made for BBC. We're watching another one now called Broadchurch. That's
Broadchurch is so good.
Yeah. They remade that for U.S. television too.
Ew, why?
That's the one with David Tennant, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Purple.
Yeah, and the crime, the kid that kills. Yeah. I can't remember what they called it, but they did, and they shot the first. What was interesting was the first episode and maybe the second episode were shot frame by frame, scene by scene, shot by shot, exactly as the original BBC one was.
Huh.
Seems totally unnecessary.
Yeah, it's totally
with David Tennant and then they changed the ending of it for the US one.
What? Did they make it like cheerful?
No. They made it with a different twist at the end with the person who kills the person. whatever, the murder, they changed the twist, because then people who had already seen the UK one could also watch the US one and get a different sort of ending to it.
But was the twist
it wasn't terrible.
Like devastating?
I don't know. I think so. I didn't watch both of them. I have no idea. I don't know how to answer that question.
All right.
I don't know that I like this binge watching all the episode at once thing anymore. You
don't like it anymore? You've grown out of it?
Yeah, I don't like it. I think I just don't like it. And because I don't know that I'm okay with, or I'm not okay with, I don't know how to frame it, but I'm not into the fact that every single week there's a new, like, at least one, if not three, 13 episode, hour long series that are like the buzz hit of the moment for that weekend. And then they sort of, most of them fade away pretty quickly thereafter. They're talked about for like 2-3 weeks, and then they don't even show up on your home screen of Netflix. And it alters the way of storytelling significantly when you don't have to when your cliffhangers don't matter, because you don't wait for anything. It just starts the next episode. And I feel like it's impacting the way that they're telling the stories and the way that, like, these things are coming together in a way that I don't think is not satisfying to me, but more so as like a overall overarching thing. I like better like the kind of slow build to shows, if they get like a cult following, if they have people watching and they come out each week and they sort of develop and can even be impacted by how people are reacting to them, rather than this like 13-hour dump of episodes that, like, the first half might be great and then the second half can be totally off the rails because there's no feedback loop whatsoever, and that they're just like promoted for a very short period of time and then just gone. I just don't, and I think that that's the problem. So the thing that I was going to bring up in relation to what we were talking about was the Luke Cage show, which I didn't like much at all. Like, I thought that was okay, but then it was super disappointing, and I think the second half of it suffered from those problems. Like, none of the cliffhangers made any sense, because it's like, oh, that's a really great cliffhanger if I had to wait more than 14 fucking seconds for the next episode to start. And it just made it not good.
Yeah, I just quit now. I've started quitting and just giving up. I also give up on books now. Like, it's just not worth it. Like, if I'm yelling at the TV, like all these procedurals, the cops are like so unbearably stupid. And if there's going to be like morons, like I was watching this Australian series, and this woman was being held hostage, and they had like a chip with like the secret information on it, and they were like, we want proof of life, and the guys were like, no, give us the chip. And so the guy was like, okay, and gave it to them. And I was like, well, you're an idiot. And then I quit, because I should not be better at cops than at being a cop like TV cops are.
Isn't there only one show that everyone watches anyways, which is Westworld?
Westworld is so boring. I quit that too.
Tom, you still like that?
I watched it all. I don't know. It dragged the last couple episodes until the last 10 minutes, I suppose. But it was. I'm glad I watched it. I didn't feel like it was a waste of time. But it kind of fits in, because it's not. You can't binge watch it because it was once a week, and so it's like, okay, I will take 1 hour of my week and watch this, and it's not a big deal. I kind of agree with you, Chad, that like the binge watching thing. And I'm with Caroline. I quit. We watched one episode and I'm totally not into it, but there's no point, like, move on. Yeah. There's so many other things to watch.
Most of these things take me like 4 months to watch, even when they're all available. Like, I just watch them as if they're coming out every so often, because I don't know why, I just don't watch them that all at once anymore.
Right.
Which, is your option.
Of course.
I guess so.
Yeah.
But you said So what thing did you want to bring up, Tom? You said you had a great movie you wanted to mention.
Yes. Going back to something we were discussing earlier. So I had to Google. I was like, all right, I don't remember which movies came out this year, or 2015 or whatever. So I Googled best movies 2016, clicked on 2 articles, and they both had like 20 or 25 movies, and like 18 of the movies were exactly the same. I realized there was no point in doing any more reading of articles, because that's all I was going to see.
It's just
there's no diversity. Anyway, neither list had the movie I wanted to talk about on it, but I did remember another one that a lot of people saw and liked. I liked it well enough, which is The Lobster. It was fine. I wasn't a huge fan. I thought it was a little long, and it really hammered home its points in a way that I find kind of obnoxious. But Midnight Special, which came out in April, Yes. Directed by Jeff Nichols, who is my favorite director. And he puts Michael Shannon, who is probably my favorite actor, in every one of his movies. I will watch anything with Michael Shannon. I even watched Batman versus Superman and then Superman because Michael Shannon is in that.
That's going deep.
Yeah. He's really good. So this one is Michael Shannon playing a father who has I'm going to say 8 or 9-year-old son who has some sort of weird power / medical condition. It's very unclear what's going on at the beginning of the movie, but he's being hunted, by a cult and by government officials who want to know what's going on. And so he's on the run, basically trying to take care of his son, because it's unclear if it makes him sick or something like that. At the very least, he's suffering because of what is going on with him. And I'm trying not to give anything away, but in other hands, this would fall squarely into the sci-fi sort of movie realm, and that would be fine. But when you get Jeff Nichols making it, and when you get Michael Shannon as the father, it becomes very personal, very much about, the family relationship and how these, the very few people in the movie, like the 4 people that matter in the movie, how they interact with each other and how they deal with the stress. And it's less about the big supernatural sort of things that are going on. And I love that Jeff Nichols manages to do that. His second movie, I think, I'm totally blanking on the name of it at the moment. Hold on. He did Shotgun Stories was his first, which is like small town Arkansas, very good. But he had one called Take Shelter, which again has this sort of weird supernatural element going on, and you don't quite know whether to believe it or not. But it's handled through the lens of, very personal relationship between Michael Shannon and his wife. In that movie is Jessica Chastain. And both of these movies are just amazing. He also did Mud, which starred McConaughey, and sort of began McConaughey's revival as an actor and his turn towards a respectable actor. And Jeff Nichols' second movie this year is the movie that's out now called Loving, which deals with the interracial marriage laws in Virginia back in the 50s or 40s, I believe.
That's very skillfully done, I thought.
You saw it? I haven't seen it yet. I've heard mixed reviews.
The stuff about the family and the stuff that's about the relationship is beautifully done. The characters have so much chemistry, and that all feels really true, the town and those relationships. When you get to the court stuff, it feels really hokey and really Nick Kroll pays their attorney. It's just, that in our
Nick Kroll's awesome
show, but it was not working for me.
Yeah, that's what everyone else seems to be saying, and everyone says, this is the worst of Jeff Nichols' movies. Which to me is probably still a very good movie compared to, the vast majority of movies that are made in this country. But I'm not rushing out to see it. I think I'll wait to rent this one.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think my daughter has the Midnight Special poster in her room.
She does. When I was at your house, I was like, how did she get that? And you said, I don't know. She just picked it up at Comic-Con. I was like,
yeah, that's what I was going to say. And I don't think I knew anything about the movie because she has that poster, and the poster is not particularly well designed or anything. It's sort of hokey looking that it just made me feel like it was not a movie I would pay attention to. Until you mentioned it, it would never have crossed my mind to actually watch it.
Yeah, that's kind of how all Jeff Nichols movies come into this world and sort of vanish before anyone has really paid attention to them. But he definitely has a very loyal following among film buffs. And that's how I got into him. I was listening to some podcasts and they were just going on and on about this movie, but then they talked about all of his other movies, and I just watched all of them right in a row and quickly realized I love him. And yeah, Michael Shannon is a national treasure. Love him.
How much would you love Girl on a Train if Michael Shannon were in it?
Instead of
Justin
Theroux, which, by the way, neither one of us, Emma and I, just did not realize that's who it was until the credits rolled, and we were like, oh, that's why he was such an asshole. He's really good at playing an asshole.
His face is a very I'm an asshole face.
Yeah.
He might be a lovely person, but his face is not doing him favors in that department.
Yeah. I also have to mention even though I've only listened to the first episode, one podcast, which Chad sort of prodded me into watching, even though
I wondered if you were going to talk about this.
Crimetown, which is a new, I can't even figure out who is this. What is this company? Gimlet Media?
Gimlet Media? I have no idea, but they seem to think that they're a really big deal. So
yes, they do. So they've come up with a new podcast series, which is going to have seasons in the way that
Serial.
Yeah, sure, Serial or something like that does. And so it's called Crimetown, where the theory is that every season they will look at the crime history surrounding one area, one city. And first up is Providence, Rhode Island, which is very famous for having a very, very corrupt mayor who died a few years ago, but had served two 5-year terms, I think, as mayor, despite having been indicted for, assaulting a private citizen while he was the mayor, despite having very, well-known ties to the mafia and all of that sort of stuff. And yes, Providence has a long history with the mafia. I didn't realize in the first episode it does talk about, that back in the day in the 50s, the big crime syndicates, the mafia headquarters were New York, Chicago, and then Providence. That everything is down to Providence, from all of New England to heading up into, Canada, was all headquartered out of Providence. I knew it was important, but I didn't realize it was that big a deal. Anyway, it's very interesting for me to listen to it because I know all of the restaurants and the streets, and it's not that big a town, and we've gotten to know it pretty well. So I can picture everything around here. And we happen to live, 3 blocks from the main drag of what I would consider like Little Italy here, where all of these restaurants are, where every restaurant is like an Italian red sauce kind of thing, and where now a lot of tourists come through and visit these restaurants because of the allure of the mafia. There's a place called Wise Guys, which uses the I want to say The Godfather or Goodfellas, one of the like the silhouette sort of logo kind of things.
Oh, that's Goodfellas.
Goodfellas, and so that's their it's a deli. It's called Wise Guys Deli, and that's their sign outside is that. They've just appropriated that. Anyway, so there's a lot of that. But then, you go into these places and there are these old school Italian guys sitting outside smoking their cigars. And it's really like a throwback to a different era. Anyway,
that's awesome. I've listened to all the episodes. Yeah, I like it quite a bit. It's a little bit NPR at times, a little too cute with the production. But it did remind me, the thing that did more than anything else, I like it as itself, but it reminded me how much I love that song by Goat. That's their theme song, Run to Your Mama. I forgot about that song. It came out 4 years ago, and I totally forgot about it until it was on there. And it's oh shit, I remember that, loving the shit out of the song. So I ended up listening to it over and over again, last weekend, in between listening to episodes of that show.
It is too cute on its production. I hate podcasts that are, first of all, it's only half an hour long. But they do the thing where halfway through they have the ads for whatever, Blue
Apron, MailChimp.
But then they come back from the ad and recap what they talked about in the first 15 minutes as if, they'd been gone for half an hour and we needed a recap. It's you just told me all this stuff. I don't need a recap. And
I totally agree.
Serial does that sometimes. There's some other, ESPN had this one this summer about the 2 wrestlers. Did you listen to that, Chad?
No.
It was about these 2 guys in high school in Miami who had wrestled, on the same team, I think. And then one of them went on to become a huge drug lord in Miami in the 80s. And his best friend, at a different weight class wrestler, they were both state champions, became very high up in the DEA. And so they had to wow. They became mortal enemies or whatever. But it was the same thing where there was just way too much production, way too much summarizing the same thing we just heard 5 minutes ago. And I can't listen to those things. Anyway.
I feel there could be a series on Netflix like Narcos, which I also watched.
I have not seen it. Emma wants to watch it. I don't know why I've been so hesitant. I feel like I've seen the Pablo Escobar story unfold a million different times in movies and whatnot. I just don't know if I need another version of it.
I think it's really well done. I don't know. I also think that like stories like that are hard to deal with in podcasts are easier when you're watching them because you don't have to pay as much attention to them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, some of these shows that we watch on Netflix, where it's like you turn away for 2 seconds and you've missed some very crucial piece of information. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Got to turn back.
Also, in Narcos, you have to read because it's in Spanish.
Ah.
Or you could just know Spanish.
Or you could know Spanish.
Some people know Spanish. I've heard a lot of good things about that. I haven't watched it yet either, though.
What else? Should we talk about this commercial since we're talking about TV?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's enough of the TV movie stuff.
All right, a little bit of backdrop here. So I'm watching Thursday Night Football, which I watch via the NFL app or whatever on Apple TV. So I don't think I'm getting the same commercials as everybody else, which, you get like the same commercials over and over and over, but I don't think they're the ones that are shown on TV. So I'm watching, and it's like 11:30, the game's almost over, and this commercial for Canon comes on. Canon printers, mind you. I mean, they also make cameras and whatever. And it's a 2-year-old commercial. Is that what we figured out?
Yeah, it's much older than I thought it was.
Yes. So I thought it was like brand new. And so it's a 30-second commercial, and I'm just going to play this, and hopefully you will link to it. So it's a 30-second commercial in which it starts out with a writing, very happy, out her novel, suddenly has meetings all over town with, I don't know if they're publishers or agents or whatever, gets roundly rejected all over the place. She's upset. She's crying. Then she decides, fuck it. I'm going to make some stovetop espresso in my little espresso maker.
But she smashes things first. Don't forget about her smashing things.
Right, she did smash a dish for no reason. I don't know what the dish did.
She's angry.
All right, so hold on. So then she goes to I believe is the Canon website because there's a little.
No, but it's not. That's one of the best points of this too. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Anyway, so she starts, and then she hits self-publish, courtesy of Canon. Then it goes on and on and on. She's printing out copies of her book from her desktop. Published for printer.
I think that's a printer somewhere else.
I don't know. And then it's a bestseller.
Their espresso machine.
Right. Suddenly, but they're selling a printer, so clearly she's printing it in her apartment.
I know. I looked up the printers. Yeah. Okay, go on, and then we'll get in the minutia of this because I know way too much about this commercial now.
Yes. Okay. So then all this stuff flashes on the screen. It's a 100 bestseller of the year. It's got some rave review from a fake Twitter account,
which is my favorite account ever.
Then she's
_book_reviews.
Then she's giving her reading at a bookstore. I presume it actually looks more like a private library than a bookstore. There's somebody in the front row with a glass of wine. She's ecstatic. She's beaming. End of the thing. And then it says, there's more to the image than anyone thought possible. So this
is the best commercial.
You have to tell everyone what her book is called.
Oh, right. The Summer Following. The cover, not horrible, I'm going to say. Title's not so great, but, generic. I will say the greatest thing in here, apart from the disclaimer that says that the website content will be different or whatever, is after that, when it's printing, it says, publishing is a multi-step process. Process, as shown, is accelerated.
I know, I love it. There's so many good elements to this commercial. Like, it's absolutely wonderful. That fake Twitter account is one of my favorites. But I looked this up. So, like, when you start finding out that it's years old, this is part of their, like, what is it? It's like everything is possible or something like that. Is their tagline?
Impossible is the
that's what it is. And so if you go to their website, because I wanted to see if you could self-publish through them, like who is this advertised for? Really, like it seems like it's for like the author who's struggling, who's having personal meetings with editors who read her book on the spot and reject her with like a shake of the head, which is kind of fantastic, and does not happen. To like maybe it's directed towards her, and then you can go on Canon's site and like upload your book and print it because Canon has all this great stuff. Canon does not do that. That does not exist in their website. but they do sell the printers for print-on-demand technology, but they're so prohibitively expensive that they're not even priced on their website. You have to call a special dealer to buy one. Like, they're like giant machines. Like, it's not an in-home thing. So they're like promoting their printers, I guess, would be the end goal of this. But it's like, the whole commercial is weird. Like, it's not directed towards an audience that's watching that and getting that message out of it. Like, no one watches this and like, shit, man, I'll start my own POD company. Exactly, right? Because that's what the content of this commercial would suggest is, you know, you're a creative person. All you need is the right printer. You can get it done, right? Right. But now if it's so expensive, she clearly doesn't have one in her apartment. And no, she's just going through a site. Yeah. Which they don't really advertise.
This reminds me of when I used to work across the street from the Kinko's, and so it was so good when any time anyone came in with a manuscript, I'd be like, Kinko's is across the street.
Oh. Yeah. So mean, but also, yeah, do that. True. How many views do you think this commercial has?
Well, look on YouTube. Oh,
God.
It's on YouTube, yeah.
I can't. I'm not touching my computer because we had that problem where everything crashed. So you have to look at it for us. I'm gonna guess 60,000.
9 million views.
What?
How many of those are you, Tom?
Like 3 or 4, maybe.
I've watched this commercial 30 times easily. I've watched it 30 times easily. I've shown everyone this commercial. I love this commercial. Like, this commercial is brilliant.
It is in the way that it's so captivating because it's so absurd.
And you find new things each time through.
Yeah. Yeah, like I didn't notice these disclaimers until I was pausing it.
Yeah, exactly. The disclaimers
the Twitter handle is pretty great.
And at the middle on that frame where it shows the Twitter handle, giving it like, it's like a masterpiece of self-publishing or something. It's like something ridiculous. But the one above it in the middle that says like, top 27 of 100 bestsellers of self-published books. It's like also it's not really a blurb for it. It's just a statement. Like the whole thing's, and it's over the top of a package that's being mailed out from somewhere mysteriously. Like, yeah. I love this commercial because it like tries to define an industry that is clearly not fully engaging with, but like hitting at certain touchstones that people can quasi-relate to, like rejection and angst and like just saying, fuck it, I'm going to print this on my own. All with this continued delusion of grandeur that they're going to actually become like the 27th most successful self-published author of 2014 or whatever.
Oh, wait, you know what I just realized? You could pause it on the last page of her book.
No.
Oh, shit. What does that say?
No. Read it to us.
All right. Ready? It's only like 3 paragraphs. The Excitables beat the Dogfish 15-7, though people would later claim that the result was crooked. Someone tidied up afterwards, but it was hard to tell who. Karen went back to pick up the beach chairs. They were all there, even the orange ones. Strange that you can leave chairs like that outside without having them stolen. So nicely made, and with real wood. The bike ride back to the house was short. No need to stop by John's or Hannah's, not anymore. She'd get the 12:20 ferry with the other holiday makers and families and lovers and senators and nannies and retired ball players. The air still tasted of salt. The end.
What?
Whoa. Is she riding her bike back with beach chairs?
Very unclear. Was she at a baseball game on an island?
With senator?
Like, what in the fuck? Is this a real book, by the way?
It can't be.
I'm getting it for you for your 50th birthday.
Where does one find self-published books? Does Amazon still have them?
Yes.
They should, but they're not. It's not on there.
Susan
because I've looked at this. Tried to look this up last time. I couldn't find anything, but I feel like if there's actually writing inside of it, someone had to put that together.
I mean, calling that writing is a stretch.
Okay. I would like to be, you know how in that Ben Affleck, Sandra Bullock movie about a storm in South Carolina, he writes book jacket copy. That's his entire job. I would like my job to be writing fake last pages of novels for Canon commercials.
It's pretty awesome.
That's my next technology. It's like fake copy for self-published novel commercials.
I think that's something that you should actually inspire.
Oh, wait.
That's
whoa. Hold on. So the first comment on the YouTube page is from someone named Michelle saying, is the book actually real? The first answer to this is from Canon itself saying, hi, Michelle, it sure is, exclamation point.
No.
What?
No.
Where is this book available, though? I'm Googling everything, and I can't find it. What's the author's name again?
Susan Dyson, I want to say.
That sounds right. I also can't use my computer, so I'm using my phone, which does not help in any way. So there's a Sue Dyson, One Golden Summer. Oh, wait a second. This might be it. There's a bunch of books.
Sorry, Dryson.
Man, how does Canon say that and then not actually show you where the book is?
That's a really good point.
That's like they're that good at marketing in a few ways.
Let's see. Sue Dyson. Yeah, that's definitely not it.
Although there's a lot of like beach-related island books by Sue Dyson, like way too many.
It's Dryson, D-R-Y.
I know.
Yeah, I don't know. Nothing's coming up.
Oh, well. But anyways, yeah, I think that's our rant and rave.
Yes.
It's kind of all of them at once.
This is unfortunate. Like everyone listening to this needs to watch this commercial because it is quite amazing. I will put it on the post and really pause this, and before we start talking, pause this, go back in time and watch it now because it's phenomenal. Like I've shown it to everyone that that.
Hang on, I came up with a review of the commercial.
Came up with a review of the commercial.
In just 46 seconds, Canon tells a tale of inspiration, not just for aspiring but struggling writers, but also for the rest of us who aspire and struggle. It's a commercial, so that tale is evidently fictitious. I couldn't find anything on Susan Drayson or anything on her book, but I love the cut to the chase, heart of the drama, and the fact that she prevails happily in the end. So Canon isn't just about images, but about self-publishing too.
Holy shit. Who wrote that?
Somebody with a blog that blogs specifically on promo videos.
It's like Canon's mom.
It's so good.
Like, what the hell?
I was waiting for the skip to the video button to pop up, but it caught my eye, so I watched the whole commercial. I went to Twitter and to look up this author and follow her, but couldn't find an account. I really thought that was odd. In this day and age, what writer, especially self-published one, doesn't have a Twitter account for promotion? So then I did a Google search and found this post. It's a bit disappointing to learn that this is indeed just a dramatization, and this wasn't a real writer. Obviously, I know the various scenes of her writing and getting rejected were fake, but I did assume that the woman was a real writer, just reenacting what she went through before publishing her own book.
This thing is a gift. I don't think there's anything that's made me happier in the past year than this commercial. Every time you go into it, there's new stuff and there's new angles. Just love it. Absolutely love it. Anyways, I don't know if you guys do you have anything you want to add?
No. I can't top that. Really can't.
Yeah, I don't think it's possible. But anyways, well, thanks for coming on, Caroline.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, anytime. And I guess I'll see both of you in at Winter Institute in a few weeks.
Watch The Crown so you and I can talk about it in front of Tom and make him mad.
Okay, I will try and find hours to do that in the middle of between now and then.
Yep.
That's what I should just do at work.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
No, I don't have classes anymore, so.
See?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, I will talk to you both soon.
All right. Bye.
When people don't like you for you, you come up with other reasons for it.